including Vietnam and every other country that happens to be watching this new episode of Smash TV, where we will recommend movies and series. Deutschland is a 3-season series that follows a young man who, due to his family, gets entangled in the world of Cold War espionage, dragging along the innocents around in the web of intrigue and danger. The first season starts in 1983 as see how 24-year-old East German soldier Martin Rauch is pulled from his post as a border guard and given the assignment by the Stasi service in West Germany to steal NATO secrets and bring them back. The first season deals excellently with the contrast between East and Est Germany, communist and capitalist control, the pros and cons of characters involved that are stuck in these regimes and how they react to it. The second season finds itself in 1986, and without revealing anything, Martin Rauch now finds himself in Angola, where he deals with the international policies of superpowers in countries in Africa and other places of the world. Besides the dangerous task of his work in that area, Martin must eventually find his way back into Germany. The third and final season is set in 1989 and mostly deals with the earthquake that was the fall of the Berlin Wall and how it affected the members of Stasi, their families and the victims of oppression. We see US influences increase its hold on Germany as CIA and other agencies attempt to seize control, get intel and prevent said intel from releasing. Character allegiances switch and topple as the rats try to flee a sinking ship. Deutschland is a fictional ride through the lens of people in East Germany during the height of the Cold War. It's a fascinating look at both German history as well as the differences between capitalism and communism and how global superpowers entangle each of us in an often deadly game. As someone who lives through all of this from the sidelines, being aged between 3 and 9, it struck me how much I still do remember from that era and how there was always a sense of dread when TV broadcasts were played in the background. If I have to put all 3 seasons next to each other, I would say the first season is the best of the 3, followed by the third season, who, despite a rushed ending, was very exciting and entertaining. It also helped they introduced the character of Nicole Zangen, played by the absolutely mesmerizing Svenja Jung. The second season, while still good, wasn't as great as the 2 others, but that by no means indicates it's bad. If you like German history, realistic espionage and the Cold War spycraft, be sure to check out Deutschland. To those who saw Counterpart and The Americans, albeit with a more spectacular American view, and liked what they saw there, Deutschland is a must. Smash that. Buster's Malhart. Rami Malek plays Buster, an eccentric and notorious mountain man on the run from the cops who, besides breaking into winter vacation homes, finds himself waiting and warning others of a calamitous event called the inversion, where the world will turn upside down. Buster is one of those movies that likes to jump through time periods, going back and forth between periods in Buster's life, eventually revealing why he came to be. Or was it? Buster isn't a time travel movie, but it definitely feels like one. It has a strong religious undertone and is undoubtedly filled with hidden meaning. Buster is yet another movie you won't fully grasp upon first viewing. It's endearing, funny, tragic, and with enough feels to make you sympathize for Buster and his plight. The answers you'll be looking for in the movie will have to be revealed by forming your own opinion on what you just saw and what it all means. I'm not sure I fully understand it myself, but I most certainly have an opinion about it. An opinion I can't share without spoiling it, so go watch it. Smash that. Bug. A distressed woman plagued by a mysterious man, possibly her recently paroled ex-husband, calling her multiple times during the day, suddenly gets visited by a man who drags her into his world of conspiracy and paranoia. Like many others directed by Friedkin, this movie is tense from the beginning to the end, ramping up as every half hour passes. We follow several already unstable people and get more and more unhinged as their own delusions become reality. Most of the movies play out in the same claustrophobic hotel room, adding to the tension and the experience these people portrayed are experiencing. The movie semi-throws doubt into the mix when certain things happen and leaves it open whether or not we witness is real or not. Judd and Shannon play their roles perfectly, and the movie wouldn't be as good with lesser actors. Be sure to stick around for the credits as there is a very short fragment shedding some light on what happened. Check that. Bruiser. A grey mouse of a man quite literally loses his identity and becomes a person without a face. An NPC avant la lettre. He ventures out to settle scores and finds himself once again. Or does he? Bruiser is one of George Romero's ventures into movies that do not feature zombies or all that much horror. It's a lukewarm thriller that feels like a mix between Darkman, The Invisible Man and American Psycho. The plot in itself is interesting. A man literally loses his face and cannot be recognized, but very little is done with it. The grey mouse of a man doesn't erupt quickly enough into some kind of vigilante, nor does he inspire a cult following due to his deeds. It's all fairly humdrum. More violence and gore would definitely have helped this movie, so it's strange why a horror icon like Romero decided not to add this. Movies like Darkman and American Psycho had a certain cool around them that made them into the iconic cult classics that they have become. Bruiser lacks this, and it's worse for it, elevating it purely to cult classic due to Romero's name and the novelty of the plot. Bruiser isn't a bad movie, but it could have been so much more. Check that. Nightmare Sisters. Nightmare Sisters is an 80s comedy sex movie about 3 nerdy girls who invite 3 less nerdy boys to their dorm for some fun. During their awkward party they start to play an Ouija board and the 3 girls get possessed by succubi, turning them into horny man-eaters. Don't mistake the word sex for pornographic. From the moment the sisters are possessed, the tops go off and some sexual innuendo is portrayed. It's all in good fun. Well, at least till they reveal themselves for what they truly are. Nightmare Sisters is a movie from a bygone era, and in the same vein of Porky's and Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bolorama. It's nothing highbrow and nothing spectacular, but it sure is fun in its simplicity. For the prude people among us, there is an alternate version out there for television where the girls are wearing lingerie and where some scenes are altered. Check that. After Star Wars science fiction, a lot of people wanted to jump on the bandwagon of its success and few achieved it as well as Battlestar Galactica. The story of the last survivors of humanity as they're being chased by the evil Cylons who wish to kill them all, featuring the charismatic Dirk Benedict, the legendary Edward James Olmos and Richard Hatch standing against the incredibly cool Silver Cylons, which eventually would become an even more legendary car. Battlestar Galactica the movie is an edited version of the first 3 episodes of the Battlestar Galactica series. Due to this, the movie feels a bit weird as scenes sometimes jump a little bit too drastically, but it beats that nostalgia drum very much. For people who have not seen the original BSG and saw the remake first, this movie, and subsequent series, might feel a little outdated, but it has the quirky charm the first Star Wars movies had added, with some neat disco kitsch. And the excellent theme that was not improved with the remake. Give Battlestar Galactica a watch, but start with the series rather than this movie, as you will see mostly the same footage in the movie as in the first episodes of the series. Check that. We grew up with Eddie Murphy in the 80s. He was, and still is, an icon. We ran around the playground pretending to be Axel Foley and saying a doing that a K symbol that was later misconstrued as a hate symbol by a bunch of idiots. We watched Raw and chanted about the naked bitch on a zebra and lauded him for advice on women we only discovered to be true decades later. And then Eddie, I know you Eddie. Fuck you Eddie vanished from our screens, and it was never the same. Coming to America was the hope of many that we would return to the old Eddie Murphy form. Unfortunately, the movie turned out to be more of a forced display of black culture than anything the original movie was about. Every 2 scenes or so some famous black person or group is revealed or mentioned, often lording in a sing and dance routine that doesn't fit at all. Murphy's character doesn't feel the same, nor do any of the others, to be frank. The son is way too contemporary, and Leslie Jones's inclusion is, well, like Leslie Jones, loud and obnoxious. Why the movie is called Coming to America is beyond me really, since only 10 minutes or so plays out in America with what is objectively the best scene in the whole movie, the barbershop. Unfortunately, a slight wokeness enters this scene as well, but the unpolitical correctness of this all is something that should have been present in the rest of the movie. To me, it seemed like the people creating it wanted to make another Wakanda moment and of course failed miserably at it. What's even worse, the glorious scene in the original where two amazingly sexy women claim the royal penis is clean is now forever tarnished by the thought of Leslie Jones's fat labia being clean as well. And maybe that's the best way to describe this sequel. Drop that. Set 3 years after the original Fright Night, we rejoin the characters played by William Rasdale and Roddy McDowall in the first Fright Night as they are trying to come to terms with what happened. Something which, in their minds, did not happen at all. Of course, as the movie progresses, a new bunch of vampires pop up on the stage and our unlikely heroes must fight the blood-sucking undead once again. Much like the original Fright Night, I found this sequel to be very entertaining. It has a quirky though not overdone sense of humor, a good dose of sexiness in the form of Tracy Lidd and Julie Carmen, and enough scares and gore to entertain the horror fan. Fright Night is jolly good fun and you should definitely check the original and the sequel out. Check that. One of the many James Bond rip-offs featuring Richard Johnson as Hug Drummond, a not-so-convincing smooth insurance investigator and ladies' man that is definitely no Bond. The story deals with Drummond chasing after a group of sexy and deadly women that are trying behind the accidental deaths Drummond is called for. I will not completely spoil the plot, but the conclusion is Austin Powers worth. To claim Some Girls Do isn't an entertaining movie would be wrong, but, having seen all Bond movies, it feels like it's a discount version of the real thing, regardless that there are worse spoofs than this. I'd claim it's the whole insurance investigator shtick if I didn't know any better. Seeing George Peppard's Banashk proves me wrong on that one. Some Girls Do overall is an okay movie if you're fond of a little action and a wee bit of sexy, but where some girls do, some guys just don't cut it. Check that. Down on his luck and unemployed, Jack Brown takes a job as a janitor in a large department store. On one fateful night, the bratty kid of the owner decides to rent the janitor as a toy, and after a few days the lad wants to keep him. His father, played by icon Jackie Gleason, decides to buy him, and thus starts a finely crafted tale of slavery and servitude through the lens of Richard Pryor's comedy. The Toy is one of these movies that would get cancelled if the woke Twitter crowd realized its existence. It's one of those movies that would be considered racist and every other word they enjoy throwing at it. If you look past the first layer, it's a cautious tale on what it is that distinguishes slavery with wage slavery and servitude. It's a story about a dad who doesn't spend time with his son, a son who looks for a substitute and finds it, in his own way, through monetary means rather than normal human engagement. Through the abuse of power rather than a mutual respect. Something which, of course, gets its conclusion towards the end of the film. Go watch The Toy. You won't see these types of movies anymore anytime soon. Cherish it and hope we'll be rid of this folly rather sooner than later. Check that. That was it for today. We hope to see you again next time for another chilling episode of Smash TV.